If I go out now and someone goes, "What do you do?" and I go, "I run a tech company," like, yeah, and a tequila company, like, tequila company.
Talk to me. Right.
Social media's current depiction of entrepreneurship, like how many people now are investing in this. And it used to, do you remember the Forex? That's what it used to be back in the day, didn't it? And it's your crypto stuff, and it's your training courses, and it's your property stuff. And don't get me wrong, there's people out there doing a good job with it, but there's also just a load of online about do this, and in 2 hours a week you can earn 40 grand a month, and da-da-da. It just doesn't exist.
You're surprised you didn't chase after him.
I tried. I was wearing a tux. It wasn't no good. You tried running in Louboutins.
Yeah, Louboutins.
Delete that.
So congratulations on just getting married.
Thank you. It's whizzed by. We're five months in, so
wow.
All going well so far. She's not kicked me out.
I love it. I love it. So where was the special occasion then? Did you go somewhere nice?
Yeah, we were Italy. Yeah. So I don't know why Italy really. Like, we both loved Italy, and then when we came to kind of planning, we said, "Oh, let's get over there." So did a nice little road trip, checked out a few venues, and then I think probably go back this year for our anniversary and check it out again. So, thank you.
You've got a new dog as well?
Yep.
So the family's starting to develop.
I get bored, you see, if I've not got something on it. Either needs to be new house, new car, new dog, new wife, or first wife. But there we go. So all good.
Amazing. And are your family from Bradford, Seb? Like, where are you from originally?
Yep. So born in the BRI.
Yeah,
so Bradford, born and bred. Yeah. Spent first 18 months of my life in Idle, Baildon, and then always kind of been in and around Leeds, Bradford area. A couple of years in Dubai. That was encapsulated a bit of COVID actually. So
sure.
There through that patch, and then obviously the office in Salts Mill. So always been kicking around.
We've got to tie this connection up of how on earth did you end up in Salts Mill like me? So what was the story? How did you end up? Yeah, because you could have picked anywhere, right?
So absolutely.
I think when I met you, it must be, I was trying to think about this morning. Did I meet you like 12, 13 years ago? How long's Titus been going now?
About a decade ago or so.
Yeah.
That's when we're looking at some
I think you'd got a few schools and we were in that weird tech dinner thing.
Yes.
The nice tech dinner.
But still weird.
Still weird, wasn't it? But you could have picked anywhere. So why did you pick Saltaire?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think now, for the first 12, 18 months or so, it was literally sat in your bedroom at home. And in fact, when we started Titus, and we'll chat more about that in a little while, but that was in my mum's house still. So I was sat in this like tiny little box room, single bed, the desk that I think I did my GCSE revision on. So it was like real startup. Yeah. And then Madge, who was our first employee and still with us today.
Amazing.
He'd said to me and Mike, he's like, "Look, we're going to get an office, lads. Like, what's the crack here? We're all sat at home. So we've got this terrible little spot in the middle of Bradford. I won't name where it was, but it was a dire little office, and I moved to a slightly bigger one, still in a terrible spot. And then we looked out here and we spoke to Robin, who's MD here at Salts Mill, and he was kind of like, come down, check it out. We obviously being Titus or Titus Learning at the time, named after Sir Titus Salt. So it kind of came full circle. You had a great little spot there.
Yeah. And that was that the connection then? Had that always stuck in your mind about Titus?
Yeah. So we had the name before we had the office here. We took his old office actually from when it was running as an industrial mill. Yeah, so it felt right, nice space, and been here for 7-8 years, I think now.
And you've now just put a management structure in as well. Well, I know you had management, but more of a formal management structure. So does that mean you and your business partner as co-founders, are you still operationally active in the business now, or are you kind of really trying to take a step back?
Yeah.
You strike me as a guy that likes to be in control. So.
I'm a control freak.
No. I know you're a very driven guy, so I'd love to get into it. How's that working out?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think now when we first brought management in. Probably 5 or 6 years ago is when we started having more of a senior management team, and obviously on the kind of tech and ops side, we brought someone in to manage that piece. Sales, we'd promoted within and then changed a couple of bits there, and then marketing, we've done external recruitment, and then Ellie's grown in that role as well.
So congratulations to Ellie. She's director of marketing now. Saw that. Which is brilliant. So she's
done a brilliant job, and I think it was about time she was in that kind of director position. We brought in David more recently as ops director, so about 2/3 of the business. That's all kind of delivery, support, customization, etc. He does that side, and then Duncan, the most recent appointment, as managing director. So that was the biggest shift for us. So Mike and I had spoken about it for quite a while. Do we want an MD? If we do, what does that person need to be like? And as well as the kind of skill set and experience, also that piece around cultural fit, personality, their overall ethos, values, etc. So that was is and always was going to be the most important hire. So he started just over 2 months ago, doing a really good job so far. I think it's fair to say me and Mike are just trying to find our place a little bit now as well. So there's still value we think we can bring. As you mentioned, I am probably a control freak. One of my friends said it to me a while ago, and he's like, well, you're a bit of a control freak. I'm like, I'm not a control freak. No. But I am. I realised after he'd said that, I'm like, no, most definitely am. And you can probably ask a lot of people.
But you've built this thing from your mum's spare bedroom, right? So I can totally relate to that. But yeah, it'd be an interesting. So is Duncan an outside hire, or has he been promoted from within? How have you done that?
Yeah, so external hire. He's run his own businesses before, not actually within the sector that we're in. We were less bothered about that because it was more so, like I said, I think someone who's just a really strong leader of people as the kind of key thing. Someone from, let's say, ethos, personality, values, matches what we've done and can kind of retain and continue to grow that cultural piece. And then I think the skill set bit is probably more important, or the previous experience, I should say, is probably more important for those who are a bit more hands-on with the day-to-day customer type of stuff. So yeah, it's good just formalising things. And we also looked at our own strengths and weaknesses, likes, dislikes, and other business interests as well, which we can kind of get to. But when it's the kind of early startup grind, I love it. When it's HR, policy, process, I kind of do switch off a little bit.
So you need to move yourself to more of that vision strategy piece then, and that's the journey you're on. And how is it working? So you've been with your business partner a long time, haven't you? It's obviously 10 years plus. And what's the secret to that? What's the secret to that sort of longevity in a business relationship?
So I'd worked with Mike previously. He was my manager actually previously. And we got chatting about gaps we saw in the market and how we thought we might be able to move into it and fill a space that no one else was kind of looking at so far. So we started off with e-learning solutions for international schools quite specifically. So online homework, reporting to parents, all that kind of stuff. And then I think it was about 4 years after that we kind of made the move to, I'll just say, non-education or non-kind of K-12 junior, senior school type stuff. So then it's more into kind of your private organisations, public sector, so small training companies all the way up to the likes of Superdry, Dermalogica, CNN, Network Rail, so some huge names and some smaller names and plenty in between. But I think in terms of how we've worked together, there's always just been a good dynamic. We are quite different in lots of ways, but we see one another's point of view relatively well. And I think now we're at that point where even if it's a meeting, we don't both need to be present because you're almost so tuned into what the other one might think as well.
Understand that.
I'd like to think we're both reasonable people, but we also speak our mind, and it's one of those. I think it was Mike who had said it. It's like, is this a hill on which I'm willing to die? And you know that there's certain things you feel strongly enough about. You go, we're doing this, like kind of just come along with me and trust me. It might work, it might not work, but how strongly do you feel about things? So good open communication, understanding one another's perspective, and I think similar goals from the outset as well was a big one for us, and not the same goals, but both being clear about what you want to achieve from the business.
And from a goal perspective then, so you're one of, I'm going to say it, you're one of Bradford's most successful entrepreneurs. Definitely, and you're a young guy for doing it as well, which is amazing. So, what's the next 10 years look like for you? What setting goals? Where do you think you're going to be in 10 years' time? Have you had time to think?
A little bit. Out? Yeah, and I think almost answered the question by going back to the beginning. And I'll be upfront, like when we got into it, we wanted to do a great job for the customers we selected, but we were very financially motivated as well, I think. And then as you kind of grow and then you achieve some of those financial goals whilst delivering great service to your customers and building the business and building a good culture and all that kind of stuff. I'm not trying to sound too cliche where it's like money's not everything, but it's almost like, you get that, but then you can see a bit more widely and go, okay, what do we want to achieve? So totally. Don't get me wrong, there are bits around legacy, there are bits around continuing to build that great culture. And then for me, it's a case of now looking at, right, I've done something in e-learning space, and certainly not finished, and we've got more to do, hence the reason we brought in this management team, but then looking outside of that as well, and we'll come on to the Tequila company.
Because I know you make investments and you invest in people in Bradford and the city, but also wider, so we could definitely get into that. But from a Titus perspective then, because your client roster is amazing, you've got some really big international customers and big national customers, and what do you see as like, is that an ever-growing market space for you? You know, what gold standard partner in Moodle?
So we're a premium partner. So they've got a few, I think it's 3 or 4 levels, and we're at the highest level there. Yeah. And then out of the 80 odd partners, so last year we ticked off one of our big milestones, which was getting Global Partner of the Year. So that means out of the 80 odd that they've got globally, we're number 1 spot.
And how did you earn that? Was that wasn't
selling a shitload of stuff?
Yeah, literally that. So it's not a fake award. It's basically you've sold the most.
Yeah, it's numbers based. And
wow, it's amazing.
I think when they brought it in, and there's a place for these kind of awards. When they brought it in, it was very much like kind of had certain impact, but it was all very much subjective in terms of like, okay, well, how are we judging it? Now it's very much who is billing the most within a particular area. You've also got to have the levels of quality and the customer retention and all that kind of stuff you'd expect, but that's ultimately what it comes down to. So,
and how are you finding, like, from a retention perspective? Obviously there's a lot going on with tariffs and a lot of, we're closing borders, and you're kind of in that space where you're selling, it doesn't really matter, does it? Because you can log in and do it from anywhere. But are you finding a resistance or a change in the market, or is it just business as usual? What's your vibe?
So through, and I'll come back as well to your question around like the 10-year piece and through COVID, from a business perspective, I should state, for us it was positive because everyone was looking to jump online and no one could do the face-to-face training, so we grew significantly through that patch. During last year, so last year actually was our first year where we were just about flat or just a bit under kind of where we'd targeted ourselves. We'd had 10 years of growth of revenue, of staff, of profits, of margins, year on year on year, and we were like, and not that we thought it was like we were indestructible and we could just do this forever, but we'd got on that path of being used to winning basically. And then last year when it was a bit slower, and we've seen that this was a market trend as well, which makes us feel somewhat better, but you still want to outperform the market. And then we were chatting to people externally, like, once you've had 10 years up and you've had 1 year flattish, and like, and you bothered, and we're like, so we're like, we've probably done all right, but then the trajectory so far for this year feels like we're back on that path.
Good.
I think in terms of like some of the international change and tariffs and stuff like that, something we're keeping an eye on, because if we're looking at where do we grow next, we've got our current offering and our current customers. So it's either new offerings to our current customers, or it's new customers with the same offering, which could be international. And however we do that, whether we just naturally expand, whether we acquire another business. It's those kind of bits which now are quite exciting for me and Mike to be able to look at. Whereas before you were very much in the detail, you were talking about customer accounts on a daily basis, sales numbers on a daily basis. You can now look at the bigger picture stuff and let the management team and everybody else do that.
Does it feel like, because I know you've had a management team for 5-6 years, and I, obviously being your neighbour for 4 years in Saltsmill, I've sort of seen that. But do you find this now, you're really in a hard transition because you've got an MD? So how are you finding that day to day kind of? It's okay, I don't need to intervene in that email. Are you good at doing that? Or
So. It's a bit weird for now, and it's still very new. Like I said, we're 2 months in, and it's more so Duncan as MD, which is the biggest shift, because we've had that senior management team for a while now. But it's one of those where you've got to step back sometimes and bite your tongue when you might otherwise say a little bit of something. And I don't want to say let people make their own mistakes. They just might be approaching it in a slightly different way than you would do. But also you've hired that person for a reason. So it's almost like you don't know what you don't know. They're coming with a wealth of experience from a different area and a different sector and stuff.
And I suppose then tying back in nicely to that, your plan then, and that maybe helps you with where you want to take the business, but also where you want to take yourself, right? So Seb, where's the next adventure? What are you thinking?
Still going to be that involvement with Titus, still plenty of growth. Hacien, which is the tequila brand. This fella over here.
Are we having a drink of it?
Yeah, we can have a drink every time, isn't it? You don't have to ask me try.
We'll
get some glasses in a second.
We should finish and then you can watch my face just fold into itself like Homer Simpson.
Yeah, we'll do it after the recording. Right. So Hacien, we launched that 3 years ago. I did that alongside Jordan, who's my business partner, and he runs an electrical engineering company and has done for a lot of years. So we kind of went to school together. We weren't the best of mates at school or anything. We just knew of one another. But I got chatting about this idea a good 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago. Started off very differently from what it is now, and kind of went through various iterations.
So tell us. Yeah, I mean, e-learning.
Mm-hmm. And why tequila? We ask ourselves often.
No, I love it. What did you see as the opportunity? I think that's what's the interesting bit. What was it? Or was it more? Yeah, what you tell me? What was the instinct?
Bit of both. So this, I saw this actually after we'd launched it, but a few years ago, my friend and I were in the office one evening late at night, and we were jotting down different. This wasn't Jordan; it was a different friend, and different ideas of businesses we could start, wanted to start, and where might we go. And then I've got the picture on my phone still. If you zoom in right to the middle, it says start a spirit company, and I've completely forgotten about it.
Amazing.
But it's always been in the back of my head. So the initial plan was build Titus, sell it, travel the world for a year, drink a load of booze, find my favourite one, come back and create it. So I've just I've travelled and drunk a lot over the years, so maybe that counts, but I've skipped a little step. So I think there's an element of passion. I'm big into like my food, my drink, my travel, lifestyle-y type stuff. Jordan's similar as well. It's a cool brand to be involved with. Titus has been an amazing company for lots of years, and it's given me that kind of foundational level of business and hiring people and growing it and stuff. Has it been a cool business as such? No. If I go out now and someone goes, what do you do? And I go, I run a tech company, like, and a tequila company, like, fucking tequila company.
Talk to me.
So there's definitely that passion piece of it. And then we'd not landed on tequila initially, but it was going to be a premium alcohol. We didn't really know what. And from that point there, we looked at something where it could be a bit disruptive. So I think tequila's got that stigma around it still, where you think of basically everyone's had that tequila story, haven't they, where they've drunk too much at uni or when they probably shouldn't be drinking on a school field, feel horrendous, and there's that stigma that's carried all the way through life. So I think something that can disrupt and challenge that a little bit. So the flavoured tequila side is very much kind of where we're coming from.
And what are these? So what? Obviously, there's 3 boxes, but I can see a pineapple, so I can work that out. But what are the flavours then that you're running? Yeah,
so currently we've got Blanco, which is kind of like your classic tequila. So that is agave, 100% agave, which you get from over in Mexico. It's all produced, very clean, very smooth. You've got your añejo, which is aged, so it's a bit more akin to like your bourbons, your whiskies, but maybe not quite as harsh or smoky or peaty or whatever.
I'm nodding because I'm thinking if you try one of those, I'm going to be on my ass.
We'll film you afterwards. Don't you worry. Or we could just pop it in our coffee. The añejo goes quite well with coffee, to be fair.
Okay.
And we've got the pineapple, which is obviously a bit more fruity, great for cocktails and mixers. And then we've got a few coming out as well. So coffee is very, very close. Lemon and lime is very, very close. Oh, wow. So the premium flavoured tequila space is where we want to live and own. Really.
And how did you connect into that? Like, what made you at that point think, right, we're going to do tequila? I mean, did you go out to Mexico and find a...
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so we... Wow. And with that, like I say, there was one challenging that stigma that surrounds it. But then secondly, if we look at it from just a pure commercial perspective, which is similar to what we did at Titus as well. When we started Titus, we said the international school market has got 3,000 schools now. It's due to have 10,000 in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
It's a growth market, so it's like, let's jump into it. Tequila has been for the past X number of years and is forecasted to be for the next Y number of years the fastest growing spirit globally. And you've seen that with the likes of The Rock.
I was going to say, I've seen The Rock
Kendall Jenner. They're all kind of jumping into it. And I'm glad to say we started before those guys did. I mean, I would rather probably have The Rock sales figures, so it's not that much to brag about. But we didn't jump on it off the back of the kind of celeb hype. But that's certainly helping just raise the profile of it. So there was that commercial angle. And then, we did a load of desk research, found a whole load of distilleries out in Mexico. So for it to be tequila or 100% agave tequila, it's got to be, much like champagne, it's got to be produced there, grown there, bottled there. We weren't getting too far with the desk research. We had enough, and then mid-COVID, me and George literally just jumped on a plane and buggered off to Mexico for a week or two. So.
And so what's like the distribution? So you buy effectively the product over there and then brand it up over here? How does that work? Or does it all arrive on a big shipping container looking like that in its boxes? And
so it comes here like that. So it's got to be, and what we've not done is we've not gone down the white label route. So we went out to the distillery. Well, we met with a few to start with, found the one that was our preference. Then we worked with them to develop the liquid itself and the flavourings, the profiles, etc. Brand work, worked with places in the UK. So one firm in Leeds called Brilliant, one in Saltaire called Funk. So they've helped us a lot with the branding work.
Yeah, we know Funk.
We do know Funk. I didn't know if I was allowed to look at it.
Yeah, he's there. Love it. Of course we are. Yeah. The producers
the
behind
the camera.
Yeah.
No, but those guys have helped us massively with a lot of the kind of just bringing the brand to life. Yeah. And we're now at the stage as well, 3 years in, and I'll fill in a few of the gaps along the way as well.
But because you've self-financed it, haven't you, effectively? You and
have we? Yeah.
Oh, God. Well, I can't imagine it's cheap. So, yeah.
Yeah, try...
Are you allowed to put numbers on it, or would you rather not say?
I'll think about it. Maybe ask me after a tequila. A lot. But try funding a wedding in Italy and a tequila company for a year.
Yeah, you feel
not
it.
the cheapest. But,
wow. Amazing.
But no, we did... So we did a raise, actually. We did a raise of £500,000 3 years ago. Currently doing a raise, looking for about £2 million.
Yeah, sure.
So that's good. We've got about...
Are you looking at VCs for that amount of money? Or are you going to try and keep it private individuals?
More individuals, more individuals. We've got a good chunk of that locked off already. Wow. And just raising the rest of it.
And what valuation are you doing
that's
that against?
$7.5 million valuation.
Wow,
so, yeah.
Bradford-based tequila business.
Yeah.
Love it.
So we've seen some good... Don't get me wrong, it has been hard. I think part of it, and when women talk about kind of forgetting how hard it is either being pregnant or having a kid, and then they do it all over again.
Yeah.
And then
I'm laughing because I'm in the middle of that right now. So not me pregnant, but
And I can't obviously kind of comment on that too closely, and I certainly will not compare it directly for all the women listening and or watching. But I think I'd forgotten the pain of starting a company, and I think the second time round is different as well, because you go through the pain with Titus, but you've never known it before, and you're just excited and hungry and and then you get to that strong point, and you start off where basically no one knows you, no one wants to talk to you, no one cares about you, and you're just knocking on doors. Then you get to a point where you global partner of the year, and it's like, we'll chat to you, and you got VCs and corp finance wanting to chat to you and take you out for dinner. You think this is cool, and you go right back to the beginning again. Like, why don't no one want to talk to me?
It's quite humble. It's a humbling experience, isn't it? Because I think in my own life, obviously, started Calls 9, left legal career, and then went into that sort of dark zone for 18 months while I was figuring out what I wanted to do, and then started Crisp, and that you're just listening to that first 12 months of do you remember me? And they're like, yeah. Who'd you do it for? And it's really hard, isn't it? So was that a sort of humbling experience on Hacienda then? Did it just make you really think, actually, we've got some work to do here? It's not going to be as easy. Yeah,
it is. But I think you get back into that zone. And part of the reason as well for us bringing in this MD at Titus is quite obviously time.
Yeah.
Like, when you see people who go... I've been asked the question before, because like I said, I've done the podcast before, done a few property bits before, investment bits, Titus being the main business, Hacien, and people are like, how do you manage it? The honest answer is not very well. It's really fucking hard to run two proper businesses, let's say. When it's in the early stages, it's not too bad at all, but then once you've taken other people's money and you owe them something to some degree, and then when you've put a significant amount of your own money into it, you need to make sure that you're watering the plant enough to let it grow. And we often talk about kind of how much time or energy is needed to get that initial inertia. If you push the car a little bit, you're still using energy, but it's not moving, and you need to get over that hill. So that time will help with it as well, investing. And then in terms of how we've gone on with that, like I said, very tough at first, but managed to get some great distribution and routes to market through the UK, work with some brilliant names like Master of Malt online and Harvey Nichols for kind of your more bricks and mortar stores.
For people like listening to this, because this is like an amazing Bradford story of starting a drinks company, how did you do that? How did you get into Harvey Nichols? Because and I'll reframe this, so there's people that we deal with as a business, and this is partly where this has come from as an idea, which is raising aspiration in Bradford. Like, I can't do that because I'm not in London or I'm not in Manchester. But you're proving that you're doing it here in Bradford. So how do you do it?
I think it's, and we'll probably come on to talk more about Bradford as a whole from kind of a business perspective and what it's like to to do business there. There are certain challenges, I think, with that north-south divide still in terms of things like investment or just visibility to potential customers or brands or whatever else it might be. So I think there are certain challenges, but I think you can use it to your advantage as well. So when we first started out, we very much played on that kind of Yorkshire brand, Northern brand, Leeds brand, Bradford brand, whatever you needed to do. So with Harvey Nicks, for example, we did exactly that. We started at home at the Leeds store. We were in there for, I think it was 2023 or 2022 we first got in there. We were listed July to December, but the tequila sales for that whole year, 66% of all tequila sold was Hacien in that store. Wow. And that was, we were only listed for 6 months. So we stuck there, we did some great activations, we built out a case study, and then it spread out to Edinburgh, to Knightsbridge, to Birmingham, Bristol, Northern Ireland, probably missing a couple, but it went national there.
So what's the biggest brand name that you're in terms of like hospitality and retail? And where's the big? I mean, Harvey Nichols is a massive. Selfridges, and I presume. And
So the Harvey Nicks one, they do exceptionally well for us, and it's an interesting one with names because sometimes the name equals volume. Sometimes it's just a pure marketing account, so to speak, and sometimes it's a trade or a volume account. So if you're talking about the kind of the nice big bits, we do the after parties at the Monaco F1. So we're out there again this year for the 3rd year. We've done the Brit Awards after parties, MTV, VMAs.
Do you get to go?
Yeah, I do. It's well good. No one ever fucking invited me to the VMAs when I run Titus, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, talking to a guy that runs a compliance software business, can I be an investor in your...
I'll get you as a plus one, don't worry.
I don't get invited to exciting things like that either. That's amazing. So you've got the core Titus foundation, you're building this new business with your business partner and team. What's next then? Because I know we know each other out of this. I know that you've got a couple of other things where you've almost given people seed capital, right, to have a go. And I know some's worked, some of it hasn't worked. Yeah. You still doing that? Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah. So there was one which is a chap I used to go to school with, and he's kind of put that on pause. And I think it's good when we're having these conversations as well, because it's very easy to just talk about all the good stuff that goes on.
Yeah, because I want to get into that with you because you always come across to me as a supremely confident guy, and you clearly are, because you wouldn't be going to Monaco to sell your stuff, would you? So, but yeah, I mean, what do you look for when you're backing somebody or backing an idea? Do you look for people that are like you?
I think people always have a natural affinity towards people where they can see themselves in them a little bit. Whether that's a good thing or not is kind of up for discussion. But I think for me, there's a few bits. So is it solving a big problem or is there a big opportunity? And just looking at the scale of the solution or the market or whatever else it might be. So I think anything that doesn't look like it's got room to scale, you kind of immediately go, well, might do a bit of something to help someone, but if it's one store in one town and it's only ever going to get to X amount, from a personal perspective, I'd probably be going, it's not really exciting enough. I think, is there something, and I'm not going to pretend I am some pure social investor or whatever, but I think anything where it does have a positive impact socially is a good thing. And I would classify that as tequila, because you're going out, you're having a good time, you're socialising with your friends. So I'm not saying it needs to be something purely charitable, but one of the businesses was looking at trying to reduce problem gambling, for example. So that's a very kind of social heavy one. Another one, great business in Leeds called Rides. They've got spin studio, fitness
Are you an
stuff.
investor in that?
Yes.
Wow.
So
I've heard of that.
In Manchester, and looking at other sites as well.
Wow.
Again, kind of from a social perspective, getting people fit, having fun, socialising. And I think last and probably most importantly is the person kind of at the head of the ship. And if you've not got someone who is willing to sacrifice, chuck in the big hours, graft, get knocked back again and again and again, and kind of got a really clear vision as to where they want to go and a really clear purpose as to why they want to go there or get there. And I think you'll always struggle. So
and I'm intrigued in this because, as I say, I admire what you've done. You're not even getting, you're just getting started, aren't you? So when you were back in your mum's bedroom and you'd left a job, and you probably saw your friends doing really well or whatever, and you're or did it work easier than that? Did you find yourself quickly making money? How did that first 3 years? How did that go for you? Was a moment? And I'm sorry, I'm asking you more questions. Was there a moment in that where you were like, I'm just going to get a job?
I'd be lying if I said there weren't times throughout the journey when I've gone, I'm not sure. So both Mike and myself, he was division manager, but quite commercially led. I was business development manager, doing a lot of the international stuff. So anytime you're in those commercial or sales roles, you often earn all right. So that was the first thing. We had a well-paying job. Mm-hmm. We went down to, what did we take? Feeling like 15 grand a year from the year one, from significantly more than that, right?
Know the feeling,
so it was a case of flog the car, you switch from Sky to normal TV, from wherever you shop to wherever else you might want to shop, all the usual bits. So certainly some like financial sacrifice that you make initially. I think that's overcome by almost like filling your time with the work and the fun. It was fun. I loved it, really loved it. And you'd be sat there in your bedroom, you'd be cold calling people, and I still remember that first one where I think it was a school in Stavanger, Norway, is that? But anyway, I got through to them and then they were like, how long have you guys been in business for? I'm like, since Thursday. And it's like, there's always a time when, I know I've been honest, I'm like, that is what it is.
Did they do any business with
you?
No.
We got through to the final stages, but
love it.
So you take that hit, but it didn't feel at the time like much of a sacrifice. I think looking back, you maybe realise you did, but I won't sit here and be like, I did this and I really, really struggled with it. I loved it. Like it was really good. And then it was probably 4 or so years after starting, not even back up to where we were before, but kind of doing all right. And then 5 or 6, that's when it kind of jumped
really
above. And but we've to be fair, we've always pumped a lot of money just back into the business. Mainly for us, the big one is staff costs, and then other bits that we've got.
Because you're quite big at Titus now, aren't you? You've got quite a lot.
We've got bounced up and down, but 40 to 50 at any one time.
It's a big workforce, isn't it?
Yeah. So that was you think of like learning curves throughout it as well. I think the people side of running a business has been without a doubt the most challenging. So there's a sense of responsibility, I suppose, for individuals to provide a good place to work with a good culture, with satisfying and engaging work for them to be doing and good customers and all the rest of it. There's the financial responsibility of, if you are selling yourself or you're paying a sales team, whatever it is, to make sure that tap keeps running so you can be fueling everything. And then I think just the personal side of it. And when you've got, for us, sub 10 felt very easy, then 20 felt different, then kind of 40, 50 felt different, and I'm sure as we get to 100 and more and all the rest of it,
keep going,
it'll change, but everyone's got personal lives, everyone has kids, everyone loses family members, everyone is ill and all the rest of it, and it's you take on a bit of that burden yourself, I suppose, as you're running it. So that's been a big learning curve, and doing it at a relatively young age, I think it's probably helped kind of develop me a bit faster.
And then sort of like, obviously passionate about where you are, you know, you've picked Saltaire and I guess from a talent perspective, then how do you find? Because when I set up here during the pandemic, I had a couple of people say to me, "What are you doing?"
Yeah,
it's lovely to visit, but then actually, I've found you look at the organisations that are based in here. It's like a little mini Silicon Valley, really, isn't it? Yeah. Some big business.
Yeah.
What was your vibe on picking Saltaire? Or was it literally, I'm out of a bad office into what seems like a bit better?
Yeah, so definitely there was an element of it's a step up from where we are. But I used to live literally 2 miles or so away from here in Baildon, so there was. I've always been familiar with the area, but it was. I like the nostalgia around entrepreneurship within Saltaire. So Sir Titus Salt, when he was doing his stuff, was one of the most successful 100%. Entrepreneurs in Europe, if not the world, sort of thing. Like huge character. And then what he'd done for his team and his staff, and building the houses and the church and the schools and the hospitals, and that nostalgia and history around that, I really loved. Aesthetically and all the rest of it, it's a lovely place. It's actually, I mean, if we're talking quite specifically about Saltaire, great connections and routes. So if you are Leeds based, it's 15 minutes in. If you are Bradford based, it's 10 minutes in, etc.
Yeah.
And then if you look to kind of more modern days, you've had the likes of Pace and others in this building as well.
100%.
So I think it's nice. And what we've found actually is, and I think COVID probably impacted this a little bit, but even before that, certain people were getting sick of the busy train into Leeds on the morning, the grey, boring office, the kind of typical kind of rat race stuff where it's just, and then home at whatever time. Actually, you can have a nice little drive into the office, get your head down in a cool space where you've got all your fun stuff around you, work with an international client base as well. And for us, we don't need that like city centre piece. Might there be some benefits? Maybe around some elements of talent, I would argue. Maybe around kind of the PR side and publicity and just like who you are as a brand. But we don't need a city centre office for customers to come to quite specifically. And in fact, they absolutely love it when they get here.
I bet they do,
And we're an online business ultimately. So
we have the same experience. How are you finding sort of young people coming through that you're employing from the city then? What's the vibe? And I'll set some context for that. So we found that there's a bit of an aspiration gap, like almost, you've got to level them up. You've got to make them feel like they can do it. I mean, what's your experience been with I guess kids coming through into the business?
Yeah, it's been mixed, and I think if you look at demographic for one, real wide range in terms of, and that's one thing from. And I won't say we've almost done it purposely, it's just occurred organically. But like if you look at EDI and the range of demographics we've got in the business, it's brilliant to see. And you feel the value of that as well, people from different backgrounds and different experiences. So that's really positive. I do think there is naturally people, I won't say more driven, I'm trying to pick my words carefully here, but if you look at Leeds City Centre or Manchester City Centre or any big city centre for that matter, that natural kind of hustle and drive, get in early, finish late, and sometimes that's healthy, sometimes it's not. I think you get that, and sometimes you've got to push a little bit more for that. But that being said, we've got people who are massively ambitious, wanting to climb the ranks, wanting to earn more money, wanting to work with bigger customers and wanting more responsibility. And I think it's all down to that recruitment piece at the beginning. So might you have slightly less talent coming through the door, being here as opposed to there, arguably. But if you take that top 0.1% as opposed to the top 1% there, then you're getting someone as good, if not better. So I just think it's recruiting smart from the get-go.
And what do you think Bradford lads originally, lost you to Leeds for a little bit. You came to Dubai, you came back. Just when you thought you were out.
tried to get away.
But what do you think to the city's sort of resurgence then? Because that's what it feels like, doesn't it? It feels like there's a resurgence, and you're a key part of that. What's your feelings on where Bradford could be, or what? And being honest about the challenges as well.
Yeah. I think it's much like Tequila. I think Bradford is stigmatised as well, and I think, as with any city, there's pros and cons to it. So I think there's a bit of an image piece which kind of needs to be overcome, and a lot of this kind of city of culture will hopefully help aid some of that. I think Bradford feels much more disparate than perhaps other cities. So we're sat in Saltaire, we're seeing Bradford, but to get to Bradford City Centre, it's 30 minutes in a car from here. It's not really Bradford, is it?
Tough for us
and if you get on a train that way, you're in Leeds in just the same amount of time. We're in a bit of a weird patch, but Saltaire, you would say, is a bit of a hub. Bingley, you might say, is a bit of a hub. I know some great businesses in Carvely, of which the name is actually hub. So it feels more kind of like disparate and spread out a little bit. So I think something more collective might well help. The inbound investment, or if I look at even the investment we had with Hacien or have had kind of getting at the moment, the majority of those people were out, and those were individuals, but outside of Bradford. Don't get me wrong, a few guys I grew up with and family I knew and things like that, but that felt like it was outside. And we often, and whether I should say this on this podcast or not, but we might go, we're based in Leeds, or our office is in Leeds, because of that stigma. So I think the sooner that you can get rid of that, and almost, like you go on holiday, where are you from? It's like, Leeds. It's like, are you? Bradford. And everyone who's from Bradford who's listening will know they say that, they'll go, Leeds. It's Bradford.
That's right. I think, why do we do it? That's weird, isn't it?
Anyway. But I think when we can get over that, and you no longer have to do it. So there's a bit of, like I said, a bit of an image piece. There's certainly an investment element into it. I think the more businesses that can stick the neck out on the line and recruit here and show it's a good place to work. And also it's, let's say, like any city, it's one place is not all the same. It's very different in Saltaire, Bingley, Carfleet, City Centre, etc., etc. So it'd be good to see a bit more.
So from a City of Culture perspective, then, what do you think? Do you think
expand?
So, yeah, it's a fair question. So it's been levelled a little bit from the business quarter that City of Culture isn't getting into the sort of the true nature of what culture is in Bradford, which is the entrepreneurialism side. And it's interesting because I think when you really look at it, you can sit on both sides of the fence with it, and you can go, well, there's a piece where we need to have culture come in, and we need people who have had experience in different parts of the arts and theatre and bringing that to a city that's might not have had it in a consistent way. But there's also, I think, from talking to other business leaders, that culture is what you live and breathe every day, right? So there's a culture that you're part of, I'm part of, that's driving you and doing these things. Yeah. And how are we celebrating that? Yeah. So, I'm keen to, how is that? You're a Bradford business. You'll have heard the same messages I've done. Are you getting involved in it? Are you supporting it as a business? Be as honest as you like. Don't worry. We can edit it.
We can. Yeah. I mean, over the years...
That's a joke.
Over the years, we've done plenty kind of in and around Bradford. We've done a few events with yourselves. We've done some events ourselves in the office and getting out to events as well. I think there's, from the almost like the higher ups, whether it's investment that's required or attention that's required or a mix of the two, anytime there is a solid event on, you get in the train to Leeds as opposed to Bradford.
100%.
Anytime there's a big act on from a music perspective or an exhibition for art, like you just mentioned, you get in the train to Leeds instead of Bradford. And it's every time, the majority of the time. So there's something there around that talent attraction piece, which we're not just talking about staff and recruitment here, generally, that needs to be done. From a PR perspective, again, that kind of shining a spotlight on the success stories. How much is that done? To me, it doesn't feel like enough. And I don't know, again, now, is my almost news feed, so to speak, whether that's emails or on the web social or whatever, is that more tailored towards Leeds? Quite possibly, I don't know. But I think when you read about the success stories, it doesn't seem like there are enough coming out of Bradford. But if you look at it from going well back through the kind of industrial phase, Bradford was a powerhouse and it's kind of lost a lot of that, but there are still some brilliant businesses here, some brilliant artists, some brilliant musicians. I think it's almost like it exists, but how hard are people looking, and how well is the light being shone on the things that are existing?
And what do you hope that the legacy is about for City of Culture? What's your hope for Bradford with that?
I think it much like I was saying before, in terms of people's outside view, and just changing that a little bit. I think it's, as I've said before, I think Bradford is just clumped together into one BD postcode. People forget there's BD 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to, what are we, 18?
Yeah, we are, I had to think then, BD 18,
But rather than it just being clumped together. And I think they've done even, for example, they'll highlight Haworth. There's a beautiful spot of nature and walking and pubs and food. So there's certainly things that have been done. And I'm not also saying BD1 is crap and that's been spread out. I'm not saying that, but I think there has been just this stigma and this image for so long, but it does take a while for that to change, and you need to kind of come at it from a few different angles as well. And
I think the important thing is we don't sugarcoat it. I think we have to look at the good and the bad. We have to address it, don't we?
Well, I mean, I live in Leeds now, not city centre Leeds, on the outskirts of Leeds, but it's the everywhere you go globally. Last time I was in London, do you know those guys on the bike? My phone got nicked.
Oh,
and
really?
I was in a lovely part of London.
Really?
Yeah. I always thought it'll never happen to me. And I was messaging Claire, and then next this guy
just whipped it out.
I'm like, you little fucker. It was and that was a beautiful part of London. Every city globally has got these patches.
I'm surprised you chase after him.
I tried. I was wearing tux. It wasn't no good. You tried running in Louboutins.
Louboutins.
Delete that.
Delete it. Delete it.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Mate, that's bad, isn't it?
But I think overall, and it's and perhaps as well, I'm a little bit removed to some degree. Like the office, like we said, it is in Bradford, but it's not certainly like city centre where all the action's at. I've been dotting around for a few years. We still do a few bits in Leeds and in London and stuff like that. But if almost looking at it, it sounds daft because I'm kind of from Bradford, spent most of my life in Bradford, but from an external perspective, it is still very much that image piece and that spotlight and what it's shone on.
And really to sort of like think about the future, but also some, you know, some of the goals you've shared today, but also like just some real thoughts about someone listening to this starting out. And I love listening to, and I could feel it because I've been there, where you clearly have a vision of where you're going and what you're doing, right? But you had some hard miles to put in. And that included picking some locations where you were like, well, we need an office. It's one up from the bedroom, but you got to get up every morning. You've got to go to that place. So is that something you would just say to people starting out? That's just part of the journey. You've got to suck that up.
Yeah, it is. It's anyone who that's another, and you could have a whole separate podcast around this. But is that social media's current kind of depiction of entrepreneurship? Like how many people now are investing in this, and it used to, remember Forex, that's what it used to be back in the day, didn't it? And it's your crypto stuff, and it's your training courses, and it's your property stuff, and don't get me wrong, there's people out there doing a good job with it, but there's also just a load of bollocks online about do this, and in 2 hours a week you can earn 40 grand a month, and da-da-da. It doesn't exist. It literally does not exist. Unless you bought Bitcoin at that and held on to it, and you're one of a million who did that. Those overnight things don't exist. So there's always, it doesn't matter where you are geographically. There's always that tough patch. It would be brilliant to see. I've often thought about, and like you just said with Saltsmill and Saltaire, kind of how could this be grown into more of an incubator, an accelerator, where there's shared office spaces, investment opportunities, the networking events, whatever it might be. I
think there's a willingness there. Cool. I think that's something. We'll talk about that in the future. We'll do another podcast on that. I think there's definite interest in there. And we were visiting a business yesterday. What was it? It's founded in 1872. It's just down the road. Ticking
it's
away.
Cool, that, isn't it?
It started out. Basically providing health policies for mill workers in 1870, man. And it's still going. And it's looks after Bradford people, but wider than that now. So they're across the country. And you're just like, that's quietly sat there. And coming back to what you were saying, that understated, but they're multi-million-pound business and they're just doing what they do every day, which is really interesting. So what advice would you give to somebody that's just going to start out and get going? Is Bradford the place you'd say get going, or would you pick Manchester or Leeds? We don't have to be heroes about it. What
I think it depends on, much like my views on university. If you want to go and it's vocational and you see a real benefit in it, go to university. If you don't do it. And I think if you're looking at it from a business perspective, if you're trying to provide a service to Manchester businesses, bugger off to Manchester. If you're doing it for Bradford businesses, stick here. If you're doing it nationally, maybe you don't worry about it too much. And I think, at least at first anyway, there's not too much of a concern about it. So I think location, especially in the world that we're living now, is becoming less and less important as you continue. And to almost, like I think it's gone too far. I think too many people work at home. I think too many people use Zoom when they should meet in person. Too many people are scared to speak to people or pick up the phone, and it's kind of gone too far the other way.
Hasn't it?
Almost hoping for a bit of a correction.
I've sent an email is my famous saying. I can't stop saying you've sent an email. Have you
picked up the phone? I've gone to see him.
So always like old guys where like,
I think I was old before my time, but it's location's not too.
Do you mandate time in the office then on the back of that?
Yeah, we do a couple of days minimum. Some people love it. So I'd mentioned, I think you said at the beginning, you just got a puppy, so that means I'm working from home. Day 2 of working from home, Claire came back. She's like, "You all right?" I'm like, "No, I'm in a foul mood." She's like, "What's up?" And it was like that. It was just that social cut-off, minus a dog weeing on the floor and chewing the skirting board.
Yeah, because he will,
so I think that social piece you miss, that almost like learning through osmosis and just vibing off people, picking up those little conversations in the office, building relationships. So when you've got an ask and you ping them a short message on Slack, it's like, well, I know we get on. That's cool. I know he's not being rude or short or da-da-da. So I think you do miss a lot of that piece. But back to that original question. I think location is getting less and less important unless you need to physically be bare. Ride, the Spin Studio, for example. For those guys, they needed a great city centre location. Yeah. That happened to be Leeds. Similarly with Manchester, they needed a great kind of busy footfall spot, and they've done exactly that. But if your business doesn't dictate that, then I think I would. And as well, let's face it, you've got to look at the cost of talent, the cost of rent, the cost of travel and transport, all those. Like, if we were to move our office from here to Leeds, it would cost us an extra 80 to 100 grand, 80 to 150 grand a year. I don't know what the number is, but it's a big old number.
Easily.
And you kind of think, well, what is the benefit for that? How many more people could we get working with our customers? How much more could you spend on marketing?
100%.
How much more could you take to bugger off the account?
We need some rewards.
You do.
So, final question. Well, it's kind of two parts. What are you most excited about? And what keeps you up at night?
So I'll answer the excited question in two parts. So personally, just got married, and hopefully over the next X number of years, it'll be nice to start little mini Francis's coming along. Amazing. So I think that will, personally, I'm quite excited. And that was the first thing that popped to mind. And again, back to getting an MD in. If I were to have even thought about that 2 years ago, it'd have been just an absolute no-go. I'm excited to see the shift and growth of Titus, especially now we've got this new structure in place, and seeing how that works out. I think there is significantly more in the tank, and we're discussing things that at one point I would have never considered, i.e. acquiring other companies or this international expansion in a true sense and stuff. So super excited for that. And then obviously from an Hacien perspective, it felt like for almost a good 2.5 years from launching, I always say it was like swimming in custard. Like, you're putting in a load of work and your arms and legs are going, and you
cash.
Exactly. And you look up and you go, I'm not much further forward, but this past 6 to 9 months, and then the forecasts are looking really positive. So to take Hacien onto a global stage and kind of really ramp it up is super exciting. And what keeps me up at night? I don't think I'm probably the best at almost like processing stress. So I remember, when was it now? It was a good few years ago, and I started getting a little bald patch here. Oh, what the bloody hell is that? It was stress, I realised. And then I had like an odd pain in my back, but I'd not done anything. So I think I'm bad at sometimes identifying the cause of the stress initially, at least, and symptomatically it'll come out. But as I've said before, anything people issues, that's always that plays on your mind. Cash, no matter how much cash your business or you've got or whatever else, that's always something
always on your mind,
there.
isn't it?
And as you get bigger, it's all right if you've got one person to pay and you're only turning over a couple of $100,000. When you've got 50 people to pay, you need to turn over a significant amount more to do it. So people stuff, cash stuff, and if Lewis Hamilton win at the F1.
Amazing. Well, thanks for being on, and thanks for sharing your background stories and where you're heading. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, Pete.
Thanks, Seb.